So let's actually complete this entire process by now publishing a website through the web application proxy that we just configured. Let me begin first over here on my desktop. This is the same desktop that we were working with earlier in this module. I mainly just want to show you first that if I come back here under settings and then to the network connection, that this laptop currently is not connecting up through either of the VPN connections we created earlier in this module. So right now we have this sort of pretend internet location that we created. This laptop is currently on this pretend internet location. It's not connected up into our RRES server in any way. And I want to show you that there's a website that I configured over on the server file1. That website is an HTTPS protected website with a certificate. And if I go to https file1.company.pri, you'll notice that I can't actually access the website. There's nothing there. This is because this machine is out on the other side of the firewall. It has no access to break through into those internal resources. One of the niftiest parts about the web application proxy is that it facilitates your ability to make available these internal websites to anywhere on the internet at all times without requiring users to specifically click to enter themselves into a VPN arrangement. And so let's actually make this website available all the time by publishing it through that web application proxy. I'll flip back over here to my server Remote One here, where I've got the Remote Access Management Console enabled and turned on right here. Let's actually publish the website here by clicking the Publish item and then identifying that we're going to use pass-through as the pre-authentication method. Later on, when we get to the 412 and 414, we'll talk a little more about federation services and some of the very complex ways that you can incorporate that. But here, all we're saying is that the internal authentication that's on the website itself on the inside is what we'll use to determine whether or not that user should have access to the website or not. Clicking pass through here, in the next item can choose what the name of the web application should be, as well as the external and internal URL. For this, I will choose file1.company.pri. And in my case, just to keep things simple, I actually made the external and internal URL the same. So https file1.company.pri. Now, in a production world, you probably have different external and internal names. This sort of highlights the idea that there have to be different DNS resolution for the external side as opposed to the internal side. But at least this gives you an idea of how you could potentially set things up. I also need to configure the external certificate, which is that wildcard certificate I created earlier ago. What this does is essentially instructs my web application proxy that for any incoming requests from clients to automatically just proxy them to the backend server URL, which is located down here. If I hit next down here and then publish, that'll go about publishing this application through the proxy. We're now published successfully. And if we wait just a second or so, we should then be able to, back over on my desktop, then connect to the website that we've now published through the proxy. Let me go ahead and close and reopen Internet Explorer here, and let me see if I can go back to File 1. This might take a couple of refreshes to make it work. Nope, actually, there we go. There is the website that we previously could not access. Now, remember, this is pretty cool because we are outside our LAN. We are on the other side of a firewall and are now able to access this one specific website because we've published it through our web application proxy. You can imagine some of the usefulness here, perhaps making available your internal Exchange servers, making available some internal SharePoint servers if you have things that need to be exposed to the outside world at all times. Any of these types of services that perhaps belong best in the inside and not on a DMZ, but need to be made securely available elsewhere, present really good opportunities to make use of this web application proxy and the services it provides. One thing I should mention too, if you're planning on doing this at home, is that in order for this resolution to occur, remember that we had to have separate resolution for the outside, for the inside. And I'm talking DNS resolution here. And because we're using this sort of fake internet zone that we're creating here within VMware Workstation, let me just show you just a real quick hack that you'll probably need to do in order to accomplish what we need. Let me bring up the location C Windows System32 drivers etc, which is the same location that we worked with back on Remote One, and also just a second ago when we needed to connect into some of these internal resources. It is this hosts file here, which we can again reopen in Notepad, where you'll notice that the FS, the connection to our federation services, the file1 reference, and the remote one reference are all pointing to the same IP address. That address being the external interface, the external network card on our remote access server, Remote One. Now again, in real world, you probably would have external DNS to resolve these and you wouldn't need to use a hosts file. But if you're planning on at least demoing using Workstation in this sort of fake environment that we're using here, this is the way in which you can kind of spoof the name resolution to internal resources through your web application proxy.